after 9 months serving with the U.S. Navy overseas. I thought the hardest part would be saying goodbye. I was wrong. The hardest part was coming home and realizing my family had learned how to live without me. My name is Sienna Calloway. I'm 32 years old, and I've served in the Navy for almost 11 years. I'm proud of my uniform. But if I'm being honest, every deployment took something from me. The worst one lasted 9 months. During those months, the only thing that kept me going was hearing my 8-year-old son's voice. Every Sunday, without fail, he'd ask the same question. "Mom, are you coming home this month?" I'd smile even when I was exhausted. "Soon, buddy. I promise." He believed me every single time. My husband, Rowan Hale, always joined our video calls. He'd smile, wave, tell me everything at home was under control. "Don't worry about us. We're doing great. Our little man is driving me crazy." We'd laugh together. Looking back, I don't know if those smiles were real, or if he'd simply become good at pretending. The morning I landed in Virginia, my phone was full of messages from friends welcoming me home. But there wasn't a single message from Rowan. I texted him. No reply. I called. Straight to voicemail. I figured he was driving to the airport. So I waited. Families around me were hugging. Children were running into their parents' arms. Flowers. Tears. Laughter. Nearly 40 minutes passed. No Rowan. No son. Just as I reached for my duffel bag, my phone rang. It wasn't my husband. It was my next-door neighbor. She sounded nervous. "Sienna, please don't panic." Those 4 words made my heart race. "What happened?" There was a long pause before she answered. "I think you need to come home. Right now." I grabbed the first taxi outside the airport. The entire drive, I kept telling myself it couldn't be that bad. Maybe Rowan forgot the time. Maybe my son had the flu. Maybe. But the moment the taxi stopped in front of my house, I knew something was wrong. The curtains were closed. The lawn was overgrown. 3 unopened packages were sitting on the porch. That had never happened before. Rowan hated leaving deliveries outside. I unlocked the front door. The house was silent. Too silent. Then I heard it. A small voice upstairs. It wasn't crying. It wasn't laughing. It was talking to itself. Over. And over. And over again. "Mom's coming home today. I hope she still loves me." At that moment, I dropped my bag and ran upstairs. I reached the top of the stairs and slowly pushed my son's bedroom door open. He was sitting on the floor, still wearing the same navy hoodie I'd mailed him almost a year ago. It was far too small for him now, but he refused to take it off. The moment he saw me, he froze. For a second, he just stared. Then he whispered, "Mom." I dropped to my knees. "It's me, buddy." He ran into my arms so hard we both nearly fell over. He hugged me tighter than he ever had before. "I thought you weren't coming." I kissed the top of his head. "I told you I'd come home." He didn't let go. Not even for a second. When he finally looked up at me, I noticed the dark circles under his eyes. He looked thinner. Much thinner. My heart sank. "When was the last time you ate?" He shrugged. "I don't know." I frowned. "Where's Dad?" His smile disappeared. "He doesn't stay here much anymore." Those words hit me harder than I expected. "What do you mean?" "He says he has to work late. Sometimes he sleeps somewhere else." I tried to stay calm. "Who stays with you?" He looked down at the floor. "Mostly myself." I felt sick. "Buddy, have you been here alone?" He nodded very slowly. "Sometimes Mrs. Porter from next door brings me dinner." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I stood up immediately. "Where's your phone?" He handed it to me. The battery was almost dead. There were 3 missed calls from his school, 5 messages from his teacher, and 2 voicemails. The newest one had arrived that morning. I pressed play. "Mrs. Hale, this is Principal Dawson. We're becoming increasingly concerned about your son's attendance. He has missed 9 days this month. We've been unable to reach Mr. Hale. Please contact us as soon as possible." My hands started shaking. 9 days? Rowan had told me our son loved school. He'd shown me photos of homework, videos of soccer practice, Everything had looked normal. None of it made sense. I turned back toward my son. Buddy, has Dad been taking you to school? He quietly shook his head. He says it's okay if I stay home. Because you're coming back soon. Before I could ask another question, I heard a car pull into the driveway. My son immediately became quiet. He looked toward the window. Then he whispered something that made every hair on my arm stand up. Please don't tell Dad I told you. A second later, I heard the front door open. The front door slammed shut. Heavy footsteps echoed through the hallway. My son immediately stepped behind me. He wasn't hiding because he'd done something wrong. He was hiding because he was scared. That broke my heart more than anything else. A few seconds later, Rowan walked upstairs. The moment he saw me, he stopped. For a split second, he looked like he'd seen a ghost. Sienna. His voice barely came out. When did you get home? I looked straight at him. About 20 minutes ago. His eyes moved from me to our son, then back to me. You should have called. I couldn't believe what I'd just heard. I did. 6 times. You never answered. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. The screen was black. The battery died. Maybe that part was true. Maybe it wasn't. I didn't care anymore. I folded my arms. Why hasn't our son been going to school? His face changed immediately. He told you. Our son shouldn't have to tell me anything. I'm his mother. You should have. He looked down for a moment. It's complicated. No. It's actually very simple. He's 8 years old. He shouldn't be spending nights alone. He opened his mouth. But before he could speak, Mrs. Porter knocked gently on the still-open bedroom door. She looked relieved to see me. Oh, thank goodness. You're finally home. She stepped inside carrying a casserole dish. Then she looked at Rowan. I've been bringing your son dinner almost every evening. He kept telling me his dad would be home soon. Her voice became firmer. But most nights, he wasn't. Rowan rubbed the back of his neck. I was working. Mrs. Porter didn't even hesitate. No, you weren't. The room went completely silent. She looked directly at me. I didn't want to interfere in your marriage. But your son spent more evenings at my house than his own. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I slowly turned toward Rowan. He looked trapped. Cornered. Like he knew every lie he'd told was starting to collapse. I asked one question. A simple one. If you weren't working, then where were you? He stared at the floor. Several long seconds passed. Finally, he whispered, there's something I've been hiding from you. Before he could explain, his phone, still lying on the dresser, suddenly lit up. A message appeared across the screen. Maya, are you coming tonight? He still doesn't know about us. I wasn't even touching his phone. But I didn't need to. I'd already seen enough. The room became so quiet. You could hear my son crying behind me. The front door closed with a loud thud. Heavy footsteps echoed through the house. My son instinctively stepped behind me. That one small movement told me more than words ever could. A few seconds later, Rowan walked into the hallway. The moment he saw me standing there, he froze. For a second, he looked genuinely shocked. Sienna, what are you doing here? I stared at him. My deployment ended today. You knew that. He rubbed the back of his neck. I lost track of the date. I couldn't believe he had actually said that. You lost track of the date? The day your wife was coming home? He didn't answer. Instead, he looked toward our son. Go upstairs for a minute, buddy. Before my son could move, I gently placed my hand on his shoulder. No. He stays. Rowan's expression changed. This is between us. I shook my head. No. It stopped being just between us the moment you left an 8-year-old alone. The room went silent. He looked away. It wasn't like that. Oh. Then explain why the school called me. Explain why he's missed 9 days. Explain why the neighbor has been feeding him. Every question pushed him further into silence. Finally, he whispered, I was trying. I laughed. Not because anything was funny. Because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Trying. Our son doesn't even know when his next meal is. His eyes filled with frustration. You think I wanted this? I lost my job 3 months after you deployed. I blinked. What? I've been unemployed for 6 months. The words hit me like a truck. You never told me. I couldn't. Every time we talked. You looked so proud serving your country. I didn't want to become another problem you had to carry. I stared at him. So your solution was to lie? He lowered his head. I thought I'd find another job before you came home. I thought I'd fix everything. Instead, everything had fallen apart. Before I could answer, someone knocked on the front door. 3 slow knocks. Rowan's face instantly turned pale. He whispered under his breath, "No, not today." I looked at him. "Who's at the door?" He didn't answer. The knocking came again. This time louder. Then a woman's voice called from outside. "Rowan, I know you're home. I need to talk to you." I slowly turned back toward him. He wasn't looking at me anymore. He was staring at the floor, like a man whose biggest secret had just arrived at his front door. For a few seconds, none of us moved. The woman knocked again. "Rowan, please open the door." I looked at him. "Who is she?" He closed his eyes. "I'll explain." "No, you'll answer my question first." He slowly walked to the front door. When he opened it, a woman in her early 30s was standing on the porch. She looked exhausted. The moment she saw me, she knew exactly who I was. "You must be Sienna." I didn't answer. She took a nervous breath. "My name is Maya." "I know this looks bad." I folded my arms. "It does." She looked down. "But I'm not here to destroy your marriage." I almost laughed. "Really? Because the message on my husband's phone says otherwise." She nodded slowly. "I know. And that's exactly why I'm here." Rowan looked terrified. "Maya, please don't." She ignored him. Instead, she looked directly at me. "I think you've been told a lot of lies." My heartbeat quickened. "What lies?" She reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. "I own the community center downtown. 6 months ago, Rowan came looking for work. He was embarrassed. He didn't want anyone to know he'd lost his job. He asked me not to tell you." I looked at Rowan. He couldn't even meet my eyes. Maya continued. "I hired him. He wasn't an employee. He was part of a work assistance program. He cleaned classrooms, fixed broken furniture, delivered food to elderly residents. He worked almost every day." I frowned. "Then why wasn't he home with our son?" Her expression changed. "Because after work, he stayed. He stayed because he was ashamed to come home empty-handed. He kept applying for jobs from my office. He didn't want your son seeing him cry." I looked at Rowan. For the first time, I saw something I'd missed. He had lost weight. His beard was untrimmed. Dark circles surrounded his eyes. He looked nothing like the man I'd hugged goodbye 9 months earlier. Then Maya quietly added, "But that's not why I came." She opened the folder. Inside were copies of school attendance reports, sign-in sheets, and security camera stills. She slid one photo across the table. It showed Rowan walking our son into school. The date was only 3 days ago. I frowned. "But the principal told me he missed 9 days." Maya nodded. "He did. But not because Rowan kept him home." I stared at her. "Then why?" She took a slow breath. "Because someone kept signing him out of school before lunch." The room went completely silent. I looked at Rowan. His face turned white. "I never signed him out." Maya nodded. "I know." She slid another document toward me. At the bottom, there was a signature. It wasn't Rowan's. It wasn't mine. Someone else had been pretending to be a parent. Then Maya quietly said the words that made my blood run cold. "The school finally identified who kept taking your son. And it's someone your family already knows." I couldn't stop staring at the signature. It looked familiar. Too familiar. I looked up at Maya. "Who signed him out?" She hesitated. "I think you should hear it from the school." Within an hour, Rowan and I were sitting inside Principal Dawson's office. He placed Tobias's attendance file on the desk. "We're deeply sorry, Mrs. Hale. We believe the person collecting your son had permission." I frowned. "Why?" "Because she knew everything. Your son's birthday, his teacher's name, even the security password you listed on his emergency contact form." My heart sank. "Who is she?" The principal slowly turned the monitor toward us. Security camera footage began to play. A silver SUV pulled into the school parking lot. A woman stepped out wearing sunglasses. She smiled at the receptionist as if she'd been there 100 times. Then she held out her ID. The receptionist nodded. And a few moments later, my son walked out holding her hand. The second I saw her face, I stopped breathing. "No," Rowan whispered. Oh my God. It was his mother, Elaine Hale. The woman who constantly told me a military mother can never raise a happy child. I looked at Rowan. "You knew?" His eyes widened. "I swear I didn't." The principal leaned forward. "Mrs. Hale came to the school 6 different times. Each visit, she claimed your husband had sent her." Rowan immediately shook his head. "I never did." The principal nodded. "We know that now. Unfortunately, she was listed as a family emergency contact from 2 years ago." I remembered. Before my last deployment, Rowan had asked if we should add his mother as a backup contact. I'd agreed without thinking. The principal continued. "Your son never resisted going with her. He believed his grandmother had permission." Tears filled my eyes. "What happened after she picked him up?" He sighed. "According to your son, she spent hours telling him that children need mothers who stay home. She repeatedly asked whether he'd rather live with his father." My hands clenched into fists. She hadn't just been taking him out of school. She'd been trying to turn him against me. Rowan looked completely devastated. "My own mother." Before he could finish, the office phone rang. The principal answered. His expression changed immediately. He covered the receiver and looked at us. "Mrs. Hale, your mother-in-law is here. She's asking to take Tobias home." I slowly stood up. For the first time since returning from deployment, I wasn't scared. I was angry. Very angry. I looked at Rowan. "This conversation ends today." Then I walked toward the front office, where Elaine was already waiting with a smile. Completely unaware that every lie she'd told was about to fall apart, Elaine was standing in the school office holding a small gift bag. The moment she saw me, her smile disappeared. "Sienna, I didn't know you were back." I looked at her calmly. "You knew. My deployment ended today." She glanced at Rowan, then back at me. "I was only here to surprise my grandson." The principal stepped forward. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Hale. You'll no longer be permitted to remove Tobias from school." Elaine looked confused. "What are you talking about?" He placed the attendance file on the counter. "We've reviewed the security footage. You signed him out 6 different times without his parents' permission." She laughed nervously. "My son would have wanted me to." Rowan finally spoke. "No, I never gave you permission." For the first time, Elaine looked shaken. She turned toward me. "Sienna, you've been away for months." I was only helping. I folded my arms. "Helping? You told my son that he needed a different mother." Her face immediately changed. "He told you that?" I nodded. "He told me everything." The office became completely silent. Then something unexpected happened. A small voice came from behind me. "Grandma." We all turned around. Tobias had just walked into the office with his teacher. He looked at Elaine for several seconds. She smiled and opened her arms. "Come here, sweetheart." But he didn't move. Instead, he walked over and stood beside me. Then he quietly asked, "Grandma, why did you keep telling me Mom loved the Navy more than me?" Elaine's smile disappeared. She tried to answer. "I never meant," he interrupted her. "You said if Mom really loved me, she would have stayed home." Tears filled his eyes. "I believed you." I thought, maybe I wasn't enough. Those words shattered me. I wrapped my arm around his shoulders. Elaine looked horrified. "I didn't mean for you to think that." Tobias wiped his eyes. "But I did. I cried every night. I stopped asking Mom to come home, because I thought I was making her choose." Rowan covered his face. He hadn't known. Neither had I. Months of guilt, carried by an 8-year-old boy. I looked directly at Elaine. "You didn't just lie to him. You stole his peace." She finally broke down crying. "I'm sorry. I thought I was protecting him." "No," I replied quietly. "You were trying to make him need you." The principal cleared his throat. Mrs. Hale, based on today's meeting, your authorization has been permanently removed. You may not pick Tobias up from school again unless both parents provide written approval. Elaine slowly nodded. She looked at Tobias one last time. I love you. He looked at the floor. I love you too, Grandma. But I don't believe you anymore. Those simple words hurt more than any shouting ever could. Elaine quietly walked out of the school. The office door closed behind her. No one spoke. As we prepared to leave, Tobias slipped his small hand into mine. Then he looked up at me and whispered, Mom, can we go somewhere? Anywhere. I just want us to be together. I smiled through my tears. Of course. As Rowan started the truck, none of us noticed the white envelope tucked under the windshield wiper. Across the front, in bold black handwriting, were 6 chilling words. You still don't know everything. I picked up the envelope with trembling hands. There wasn't a stamp. No address. Whoever left it had been standing right beside our truck. I slowly opened it. Inside was a single folded page. Only one sentence was written on it. Ask Rowan where he was the night Tobias disappeared. I looked at Rowan. My heart immediately started racing. What does this mean? He frowned. What are you talking about? I handed him the note. His face turned completely pale. For several seconds, he couldn't even speak. Finally, he whispered, I hoped this would never come back. I stared at him. What happened? He leaned against the truck and covered his face. About 4 months after you deployed, there was one night. I couldn't find Tobias. My entire body went cold. You what? He disappeared. I felt like the ground had disappeared beneath me. How long? His voice shook. Almost 3 hours. I couldn't breathe. Our son was missing. And you never told me? He nodded slowly. I was terrified. I thought I'd find him before anyone knew. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You didn't call me. You didn't call the police. I know. I know. He looked completely broken. I searched every street, every park. I thought I'd lost him. My eyes filled with tears. Then where was he? Rowan swallowed hard. Mrs. Porter found him. I frowned. Our neighbor. He nodded. He was sitting alone at the playground 2 blocks away. He was crying. He kept saying, I wanted to find Mom. I closed my eyes. My little boy had tried to find me, even though I was thousands of miles away. Rowan continued, after that night, I promised myself I'd never leave him alone again. But then, I lost my job. I stopped thinking clearly. I convinced myself I could handle everything. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. I was wrong. Before I could answer, Mrs. Porter pulled into the school parking lot. She walked toward us carrying a grocery bag. The moment she saw the note in my hand, her smile vanished. Someone finally gave it to you. I looked at her. You knew about this? She nodded. I've known for months. Why didn't you tell me? She sighed. Because I promised someone. Who? She hesitated. Then quietly answered, Tobias. Both Rowan and I stared at her. She looked at us with sadness. The night I found him, he begged me not to tell either of you. He thought, if everyone knew he ran away, you'd stop loving him. I felt my heart shatter all over again. Mrs. Porter reached into her bag. She pulled out a small red notebook. I've been keeping this safe. What is it? She gently placed it in my hands. It's Tobias's diary. He asked me to hide it until you came home. I slowly opened the first page. At the top, in a child's uneven handwriting, were 8 heartbreaking words. Things I can't tell Mom or Dad. I held the small red notebook in my hands. For a moment, I couldn't open it. Something inside me was afraid, because I knew whatever was written on those pages. It came from my son's heart. Not an adult's explanation. Not an excuse. Just the truth from an 8-year-old child. I sat down on the bench outside the school. Rowan sat beside me. Neither of us spoke. Slowly, I opened the first page. The date was from 5 months earlier. The handwriting was messy, but I could read every word. Today Dad forgot to pick me up again. I stopped. My eyes immediately filled with tears. I turned the page. I know Dad is tired. I know Mom is far away. I don't want to make them feel bad. The next page was covered with small drawings. Our family, a house, a boat, and 3 people holding hands. Underneath it, Tobias had written, "This is how I want us to be." I pressed the notebook against my chest. I couldn't stop crying. Then I saw another entry. Grandma says Mom chose the Navy over me. I don't know if that's true. I don't think Mom would leave me. That sentence broke me. My son had been defending me, even while he was hurting. I looked at Rowan. He was crying silently. I had no idea. I closed the notebook. That's the problem. You both thought you were protecting him, but nobody asked him what he needed. Rowan looked down. I failed him. I shook my head. We both missed the signs. Mrs. Porter sat beside us. You know what hurt him the most? What? Not that you were gone, Sienna. Not that Rowan lost his job. She looked at the notebook. It was that he thought he had to be strong for everyone else. Those words stayed with me. That evening, after we got home, I sat with Tobias on his bedroom floor. No phone. No distractions. Just me and my son. Buddy, why didn't you tell me you were sad? He looked at his hands. Because you were helping people. I didn't want to make you worry. I felt tears falling. Your feelings will never be a burden to me. He looked up. Even when you're busy? Especially then. He was quiet for a moment. Then he asked the question that broke my heart. Mom, if I tell you I'm scared, will you stay? I pulled him into my arms. I should have been asking you that. I should have noticed. I'm sorry. That night, I made a promise. Not the kind you make during a deployment. Not the kind you say because someone is watching. A real promise. A promise to listen. A promise to be present. A promise that my son would never again feel alone. But the next morning, something happened that changed everything. Rowan received a call from his old workplace. At first, he looked relieved. Then his expression changed. He handed me the phone. The person on the other end said only one sentence. Mr. Hale. We found the reason you lost your job. And it wasn't because of your performance. I looked at Rowan. He hadn't said a single word since hanging up the phone. His face had gone completely pale. What did they mean? I asked. He swallowed hard. I don't know. They asked me to come in. And they said they found new evidence. The following morning, we drove to the logistics company where Rowan had worked for nearly 7 years. His former manager, Mr. Collins, was waiting for us. He looked uncomfortable. Sienna. Rowan. Please have a seat. He placed a thick folder on the table. When Rowan lost his job, we believed he had been stealing company equipment. My heart skipped. What? Mr. Collins nodded. Someone had been removing expensive electronic parts from our warehouse. Unfortunately, the security system showed Rowan entering the building late at night. I turned toward Rowan. He looked devastated. I told them I was only finishing paperwork. No one believed me. Mr. Collins opened the folder. Yesterday, we upgraded our old security system. We recovered footage that had been corrupted. He pressed play. The video showed Rowan leaving the warehouse exactly when he said he had. 10 minutes later, another employee entered through a side entrance using a stolen access card. He was the one carrying the stolen boxes, not Rowan. Mr. Collins looked at us. We fired the wrong man. Silence filled the room. He slid another document across the table. We've reported everything to the police. The employee confessed last night. He admitted he blamed Rowan because he knew Rowan was under stress while his wife was deployed. I looked at Rowan. His eyes filled with tears. For months, he had believed everyone thought he was a thief. Mr. Collins continued. We owe you an apology. And if you're willing, we'd like to offer you your job back. Rowan looked down at the offer letter, then quietly pushed it back. Mr. Collins looked surprised. You don't want to return? Rowan smiled sadly. I appreciate it. I really do. But while I was trying to rebuild my career, I almost lost my son. I'm not making that mistake twice. I've already accepted a job closer to home. It pays less, but every afternoon, I'll be there when school ends. Mr. Collins slowly smiled. I think that's the right decision. As we walked toward the parking lot, I slipped my hand into Rowan's. For the first time in months. It felt natural. Not because everything had been fixed, but because he had finally stopped choosing pride over family. Just as we reached the truck, my phone rang. It was Principal Dawson. His voice sounded urgent. Mrs. Hale, please don't panic. But Tobias isn't at school. I felt my heart stop. What do you mean? He never arrived this morning. And according to the bus driver, he got off 2 stops early with someone he recognized. For a few seconds, I couldn't hear anything except my own heartbeat. What do you mean he isn't at school? Principal Dawson's voice became softer. We checked the cameras. Tobias got off the bus at the second stop. Someone was waiting for him. My hand tightened around the phone. Who? There was a pause. Mrs. Hale. The person waiting for him was your mother-in-law. Everything inside me went cold. Not again. Not after everything. I looked at Rowan. He had already understood from my expression. What happened? I could barely get the words out. Your mother. His face changed instantly. No. We told her she couldn't. I know. We need to find him. We didn't waste another second. The school gave us the security footage. There she was. Elaine. Standing near the bus stop. Talking calmly to Tobias. He wasn't fighting. He wasn't running. He was simply following her. And somehow, that hurt even more. Because it meant she still had his trust. Rowan immediately called her. She answered after the first ring. Sienna. Her voice sounded almost calm. Where's my son? Silence. Then she sighed. He's safe. I felt anger rising inside me. You took him. I protected him. No. You took him. She became emotional. You both are so focused on your careers. Nobody thinks about what Tobias actually needs. I looked at Rowan. He closed his eyes. Because those were the same words she'd used before. You don't get to decide that anymore. I tried to keep my voice steady. Bring him back. There was another pause. Then Elaine whispered, I just wanted one day with him. One day where he remembered that he has a grandmother who loves him. I closed my eyes. For a moment, I felt sadness, not anger, because I realized something. Elaine wasn't a monster. She was someone who had convinced herself that hurting people was the same as loving them. But that didn't make it okay. Where are you? She didn't answer. The call ended. Rowan immediately grabbed his keys. But before we could leave, my phone received a message. From an unknown number. There was a photo attached. My heart stopped. It was Tobias. He was sitting on a park bench. He looked scared. But he was holding something in his hands. A small blue notebook. His diary. Under the photo was one sentence. Ask your son what he discovered before you come. I stared at the picture on my phone. My son was sitting on that park bench. He looked scared. But he wasn't crying. That confused me. Because Tobias was the kind of child who cried when he saw someone else get hurt. He always cared more about others than himself. Rowan looked at the picture over my shoulder. The notebook. He whispered. What did he find? I looked at him. What is she talking about? He shook his head. I don't know. But I could see something in his eyes. Fear. Not because he thought Elaine would hurt Tobias. Because he knew there were still things we didn't understand. We called the police. Within minutes, Officer Daniel Brooks arrived at our house. He looked at the photo carefully. Do you know where this park is? I nodded. It's only 15 minutes away. We'll go together. When we arrived, Elaine was sitting on the bench beside Tobias. The moment he saw us, his face changed. Mom. He stood up immediately. I ran to him and hugged him tightly. Are you okay? He nodded against my shoulder. I'm sorry. I pulled back. Why are you sorry? He looked down. Because I thought I could fix everything. Those words broke my heart. You don't have to fix anything, buddy. That's the adult's job. Elaine stood up slowly. Sienna, I know what I did was wrong. But Tobias wanted answers. I looked at her. What answers? Tobias reached into his backpack. He pulled out the blue notebook. The same one from the picture. I found this in Grandma's house. My heart sank. What is it? He handed it to me. It wasn't his diary. It was older. The cover was faded. Inside were documents, letters, and photographs. Rowan took the notebook from me. After reading the first page, his face changed. What is this? I looked at him. What? He handed me the page. It was a letter from years ago, before we got married, before Tobias was born. The letter was written by Elaine, but it wasn't about us. It was about Rowan. The first sentence made my stomach drop. I can't let my son make the same mistake his father made. I turned the page. There were dozens of letters, all about controlling Rowan's choices, who he dated, where he worked, how he lived. Elaine had been keeping this hidden for years, but the last page was different. It had a date from only 2 months ago, and one sentence written at the bottom. If Sienna comes home, I need to make sure she never takes my family away from me. I slowly looked at Elaine. For the first time, she looked afraid. Not angry, not defensive. Afraid, because we had finally found the truth. And this time, she couldn't explain it away. For several seconds, nobody spoke. The wind moved through the trees around us, but everything felt completely still. I kept looking at the letter in my hands. The words were written by Elaine. Not years ago. Not when she was angry. 2 months ago. After she knew I was coming home. After she knew Tobias needed both of his parents. I looked at her. Why? My voice was quiet, but full of pain. Why would you do this? Elaine looked away. I was afraid. I shook my head. Afraid of what? She wiped her eyes. That once Sienna came back, Rowan would stop needing me. I stared at her. He's your son, not something you own. She nodded slowly. I know that now. Rowan stepped forward. His voice was different. Not angry, just hurt. Mom, do you know what hurts the most? Elaine looked at him. You didn't trust me. You spent my whole life making decisions for me. When I finally became happy, you tried to destroy it. Tears filled her eyes. I thought I was protecting you. Rowan shook his head. You weren't protecting me. You were protecting yourself from feeling alone. Those words hit her harder than shouting ever could. She looked down. And for the first time, she admitted something. When your father died, I felt like my whole world disappeared. I promised myself I would never lose you too. Her voice cracked. But I confused love with control. Nobody answered. Because deep down, we all knew that was the truth. But understanding someone's pain didn't erase the damage they caused. Officer Brooks stepped closer. Mrs. Hale, we need to discuss what happened today. Elaine nodded. I understand. She looked at Tobias. I'm sorry. He held my hand, then quietly said, Grandma, I love you. A tear rolled down her face. But I need people around me who tell the truth. Elaine closed her eyes. Those words from an 8-year-old child were more powerful than anything we could have said. Later that evening, after everything was reported and Tobias was finally home, I sat beside his bed. He was holding his favorite stuffed animal, the same one he'd slept with since he was little. Mom? Yeah, buddy. Are you mad at Grandma forever? I looked at him, and I realized something. Children don't think like adults. They don't only see mistakes. They see the people they love. I don't know what the future looks like, but I know something. What? We can forgive someone without allowing them to hurt us again. He thought about that, then nodded. That's fair. I smiled. My 8-year-old son had learned something many adults never understand. The next morning, I received an email from the Navy. I expected it to be about my assignment. Instead, the subject line made my heart stop. Request for immediate meeting regarding your deployment records. I opened it, and the first sentence changed everything. Mrs. Calloway, there is something you were never informed about before your last deployment. I stared at the email on my screen. My first thought was fear. Not because of the Navy, not because of my assignment, but because after everything my family had been through, I had learned one thing. Whenever someone said, there is something you don't know, it usually changed everything. The next morning, I arrived at the Navy office. Commander Ellis was waiting for me. He looked serious. Sienna, please sit down. I placed my bag beside the chair. What happened? He opened a file. Before your last deployment, you submitted a request. I frowned. What request? He looked at the papers. A request to reduce your overseas assignments. I froze. I never submitted that. He nodded. That's why we called you. My heart started beating faster. Someone submitted documents using your information. What? He turned the papers toward me. There were forms, signatures, dates. But the signature wasn't mine. Someone had tried to make it look like I wanted to leave my position. Commander Ellis continued. We rejected the request because something didn't feel right. We started reviewing the records. That's when we found more. I looked at him. What more? He took a breath. Someone had been sending complaints about you. Anonymous complaints. Claiming you were struggling emotionally and couldn't handle your responsibilities. I couldn't believe it. Who? We don't know yet. But we're investigating. My mind immediately went through every person who had been around my family. Then one thought came to me. Elaine. But I stopped myself. I didn't want to blame someone without proof. When I left the office, I called Rowan. He answered immediately. Are you okay? I could hear the worry in his voice. I told him everything. For a few seconds, he said nothing. Then he whispered, Sienna. What? I think I know something. My stomach tightened. What? Before you came home, I found old emails on the family computer. What kind of emails? He hesitated. Emails between my mother and someone else. I stopped walking. Who? I don't know. But they were talking about making sure you wouldn't come back and take Tobias away. My hands went cold. Rowan, did you save them? Yes. I never understood what they meant. But now I think they were talking about your Navy records. That evening, we sat at the kitchen table. The computer was open in front of us. Rowan searched through the old files. Then he found them. Messages, dates, attachments. And one name appeared again and again. Not Elaine. Not someone we expected. A person who had been close to our family for years. I stared at the screen. Because the truth was finally appearing. And it was much bigger than we thought. I stared at the computer screen. For a few seconds, I couldn't understand what I was seeing. The name at the top of the emails belonged to someone I never expected. Someone I trusted. Someone who had been part of our lives for years. Maya. The same woman who had helped Rowan when he lost his job. The same woman who had brought us documents. The same woman who claimed she was trying to help our family. My stomach dropped. No. Rowan looked at me. Sienna. I pointed at the screen. Why would Maya do this? Rowan immediately shook his head. That doesn't make sense. She helped us. I know. But these emails, they're real. We read every message carefully. Maya had been communicating with Elaine for months. But the truth was different from what we first thought. She wasn't helping Elaine destroy our family. She was trying to stop her. The email showed that Maya had discovered what Elaine was planning. She had confronted her. She had warned her. And when Elaine refused to stop, Maya started collecting evidence. The fake documents. The school information. The messages. Everything. She had kept proof because she knew one day the truth would come out. The final email was the one that changed everything. It was from Maya to Elaine. You need to understand something. Sienna is not your enemy. Rowan is not your possession. And Tobias is not a reason for you to control everyone. If you continue hurting this family, I will tell them everything. I sat back in the chair. All this time, I thought everyone was hiding something from me. But the truth was more complicated. Some people were hiding things because they were trying to protect themselves. Others were hiding things because they were trying to protect us. The next morning, Maya came to our house. She looked nervous. I know you found the emails. I nodded. Why didn't you tell me? She looked down. Because I promised Rowan I would help him find the truth himself. I looked at Rowan. He shook his head. I didn't know she was collecting all this. Maya sighed. I should have told you sooner. You're right. But I was afraid. Afraid of what? She looked at Tobias playing in the backyard. Afraid that one more person causing pain would break him. I understood. Because I had felt the same fear. Maya handed me a small envelope. What is this? The final proof. Inside were copies of everything. The fake Navy documents, the anonymous complaints, the messages, and the person who had helped Elaine create them. I looked at the last page. A name. A person who had been angry at me for years. A person who believed my career had taken something away from them. I closed the folder. For months, I thought my biggest battle was being away from home. I was wrong. The hardest battles are sometimes the ones you fight after you return. But this time, I wasn't fighting alone. I had my son. I had Rowan. And I finally understood something important. Family isn't about never facing problems. It's about choosing the truth, even when the truth hurts. 1 year later, I still wore my Navy uniform. Rowan still came home every night. Tobias still asked 100 questions before bedtime. Our family wasn't perfect, but it was honest. And that was something we had never truly had before. My name is Sienna Calloway. I'm proud to serve my country. But the greatest mission of my life wasn't protecting people overseas. It was learning how to protect the little family waiting for me at home.